This is Monday. There'll be a guest pope. By the way, I might mention tonight, during the Pope special, if you try to change channels, NBC will not be responsible if you turn into a pillar of salt. You know what's going to happen tonight? Somebody's going to tune in late, not and then see the Pope and say, all right, Carson's gone too far with this sketch. You know, if you think about it, the Pope and the President, President Carter, do have something in common. Both of their successors will be Catholic. No, I don't mean to frighten the President, but I think Teddy Kennedy has made up his mind that he's going to run. No, I don't know. White smoke was seen coming out of his chimney in Hyannisport today, so it could be. But the Pope, as you know, is back east. He landed in Boston today, and tomorrow night, Pope John Paul II will be saying Mass at Yankee Stadium in New York. That should be thrilling. Yeah. And Wednesday night, he will be giving last rites at Dodger Stadium. Ed, we're finally in prime time. Isn't this exciting?
It's great.
Just my luck. Prime time, and tonight we probably don't have an audience. All the Jewish people are observing the holiday, and all the Catholics are out in the rain watching the Pope. We don't have anything left. Then they put us on the Day of Atonement. Are they trying to tell us something? Personally, I don't even know what I'm doing in prime time. I don't even jiggle. Well, I do. It's just not visible. We did. You make up your own joke. Just think, you know, the first show we did was from New York City, October 1st, 1962. That was a long time ago.
How was it?
Yeah, I knew. That was so long ago that the Ayatollah Khomeini was a fun guy, loved to dance. You know, that was so long ago, there were no Mary Tyler Moore reruns. Howard Cosell was wearing a training toupee. And when Hamilton Jordan and Jody Powell first started to watch this show, they were like Homer and Jethro. Lately, they've been acting like Cheech and Chong. Do you remember the first show?
Yep.
First show from New York. I remember I stepped off of the train. I was welcomed to New York City by an office boy from NBC. And I remember he looked up at that huge train, and he said, you know, this would make a good series. Whatever happened to little Freddie Silverman? You know, he was... Anyway, we're glad you're here tonight. We got a wonderful show for you. First of all, I want to thank, before we start, I want to take the opportunity to thank you, the viewing audience, for making all of this possible. We really couldn't have done 17 years without you, because you recognized the Tonight Show for what it is. The intelligent alternative to foreplay. Later on, we're going to talk about the new television season and show you some of the programs that did not make it on the fall season, some of the new pilots that didn't get on, and then, as you saw in our opening billboard, we have a lot of famous sketches that we have done over the past 17 years. Thank you for coming, and we're going to be right back after this. Back.
Well, sir.
Happy 17th. Well, I suppose we should get right to what's happening this season.
We should.
Before we get to a retrospective of
there are always a lot of pilots made. Some do not make it.
Well, all the shows that are on. Here are some listings from Television Guide as described. In the new season, Buck Rogers, you know about that? In the 25th century, finds Buck up to his old tricks with stun guns, lasers, and lovable robots. New show called Heart to Heart.
Right.
Stars Robert Wagner and Stephanie Powers as a wealthy San Francisco couple who, at the slightest whiff of adventure, drop everything and run off to play detective. Out of the Blue. You familiar with that?
Out of the Blue.
It's about an angel who tells one-liners, plays a guitar instead of a harp, and loves the Chicago Cubs. Big Seamus, Little Seamus. That's set in Atlantic City gambling casino. It's about the hotel's house detective and his 13-year-old son who solved crimes. Trapper John, M.D., about a surgeon in a big city hospital who must contend with a cocky young doctor who parks his motorhome in the hospital lot. These are real shows, folks. Working Stiffs, about a pair of blundering nincompoops who work as janitors in an office building where they harass the manager, put the make on pretty tenants, and turn the building into a shambles. Man called Sloan. Robert Conrad is a stylish bachelor who's a top secret agent. Shirley, star Shirley Jones. Good thinking. As a widow with 4 kids, a new kind of family. Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
About a widow and her 3 children who move in with a divorcee and her daughter and share the house expenses and problems. The Lazarus Syndrome, about a cardiologist and newspaper reporter who team up to run a hospital. Eyeshide, about the New York City Police Department's chief of detectives. Now, those are just some.
Those are the real ones.
Those are the real ones. And as you know, they probably make how many pilots in a season?
Several hundred, I would say.
100, maybe 1,000. Those are the ones that got on the air. We have some publicity pictures from pilots that did not get on the networks this fall, and it's really kind of a shame because some of them are really wonderful.
Really winners?
Yeah. For example, here's one here, a show called Tokyo Rosenthal. This is about a World War II drama about a Japanese radio announcer who acted as her own antenna. I don't know why that didn't get on. This is a public affairs show called 60 Seconds. Here we see an in-depth interview with the president of the Chrysler Corporation. Sitting there on the right. You know, television has done several biographies of famous people, famous women, notably Babe Dietrichson and Zaharias and Amelia Earhart. This one was called Dolly Parton, The Early Years. From the studio that brought you The Incredible Hulk, now comes The Unbelievable Rabbi. This is about a rabbi who forces himself between newlyweds and refuses to let them consummate their marriage until they say something nice about his hat. Here's a warm family series about a bachelor presidential aide and his relationship with the White House secretarial pool. Hamilton Jordan stars in 88 is Not Enough. These folks didn't make it. Here's a science fiction series about a mad woman scientist who clones hundreds of little Gary Colemans. And then buses them to the Osmond Family School. Here's one I kind of like. Little House on the Construction Site. Story of 2 wacky carpenters who like to dance the soft shoe in front of a porta potty. I was turned down. This PBS special didn't make it. The 6-part biography of Madame Ooh, the discoverer of the first suppository.
Ooh.
Yeah. Here's a show called Who's Next, a game show set in Iran. In the tradition of last season's Mrs. Columbo, Mrs. Kojak. Didn't get on. Another detective show called Barnaby Bones. About a detective that's so old that he makes a citizen's arrest of himself. Kind of tragic. The war picture, a movie or series called They Squatted to Conquer. It's a little-known World War II story about a company of Nazis who invade Poland while doing very bad impressions of Groucho Marx. From the producers of The Incredible Hulk came this pilot about a man who loses his temper and turns into a giant banana called The Incredible Fruit. Here's a show about students at a mortician school that didn't get on called One Day at a Tomb. In the first episode, they scheduled a mass burial but forgot to order the coffins. You see them carrying the people there with no coffin. Now, here's a segment that 60 Minutes will not be airing about a terrorist group called the YLO, the Yenta Liberation Organization. And here 2 women look at a machine gun they used to force their sons to eat chicken soup.
Didn't get on.
Didn't get on. Television does do drama very well.
Yes.
They do drama exceptionally well.
You can say that.
They've done outstanding works adapted from literature such as I, Claudius, Tale of Two Cities. This was a lesser-known masterpiece called A Hatful of Ralph. Okay. We got to get going now. We have a lot of clips for you tonight that go back. As we always say, it's unfortunate we do not have things as early as we'd like, but the tapes were destroyed or erased or whatever. But one night, the fun thing about doing this show is you never know on any given night what will happen. Now, one night we had Dom DeLuise, Burt Reynolds on the same show, and it was a rather dignified show. It was like